Hello everyone, Colin Canet here for Woodwork Web. Today we're back talking about drills. Now a few months ago, if you're following along with my channel, you'll remember that I purchased this 18-volt drill. And it was just a little bit more powerful than the 12-volt that I was using. And the reason that I needed it was because I'm using this doweling jig so often, and in hardwood, the 12-volt was just not really powerful enough. Now, one of the first videos that I made with my new 18-volt drill was the standing desk. And unfortunately, it drilled holes perfectly, a nice and powerful drill, but the battery didn't last as long as I had hoped. I ran out of battery power about 3/4 of the way through building the standing desk, which means you have to stop and go and recharge the battery. And it only takes 35 minutes, but it still means you have to stop in the middle of the project and recharge the battery. Now, if I had had a spare battery, of course, I could have put another one in, but it only came with one battery and I didn't purchase another one. So before we get too far into it, I do want to remind you, if you haven't already subscribed, I'd ask you to do that. And also don't forget to click the little gear thing beside that so you get notice every time I upload a new video. Now, many months ago, and I think it was when I was reviewing my Milwaukee rotary tool, I made the comment that Milwaukee wasn't watching my videos anyway, so it didn't matter. But it turns out they are. And in the scheme of things, the nice folks at Milwaukee have sent me one of their 18-volt brushless drills to try out. What I'm going to do, I'm going to be donating the original 18-volt that I purchased. I'm going to be donating this, and it's hardly been used, to one of the local woodworking guilds or clubs for them to use as a fundraiser. So thanks very much, Milwaukee. Now, when you're looking at power tools, there's two kinds of motors. There's what we call brushed, which is what we're familiar with, and they've been around for, I think, like 150 years or something. Been around a long time. And then there's the brushless, which is what I wanted to talk about. And brushless has been around for, I think, about 20 or so years, but in more recent years, they've really made some technology advances with them. So what the difference are, typically a brushed motor is less expensive to manufacture. Some of the disadvantages, because they have what they call brushes in them, that whenever the motor's spinning, these brushes are connecting to the motor. Those brushes wear out over time, and most people don't replace the brushes. They just throw the drill out, and sometimes it's not worth replacing the brushes in them unless it's a really good quality tool. So a brushed motor is less expensive. They tend to heat up a little bit more than a brushless, and if you've watched any of my videos that I've talked about motors, the biggest enemy of any motor is heat. And the problem with heat, especially when it gets a very high heat, is it actually melts some of the lacquer and some of the insulation inside the tool, and it shorts out the electronics. And that's something you don't want to happen to a motor. Now, a brushless drill basically looks identical to the same kind of drill that would have brushes in it. The difference is that a brushless motor, of course, doesn't have the brushes rubbing against the motor inside, so there tends to be less heat, which means it tends to last longer. It's a little bit longer lasting drill, and where that's particularly important is if you're an electrician or a plumber and you're using a drill all the time, drilling holes, that becomes a very important factor. Now, if you've read any of the articles on brushless technology, they talk about brushless technology being smart. And what they mean by that is the technology that they're using in many of these drills now, the drill can detect what it's drilling into. And for example, if you're drilling into, say, 1/4-inch plywood, it doesn't take much power to drill into 1/4-inch plywood. And for a drill like this, it will detect that, and it will be able to put as much sort of energy into it as it needs to. And when you compare that to, say, a brushed motor will put more power into doing the same amount of work. And what that means is a brushless motor, depending on what you're using for, it can actually, it'll save on battery power. So if you're doing light duty work, it will actually save more battery power and last you longer between charges. And I can tell you that over the past couple of months, I've actually proven that that's true, because I've very seldom had to recharge batteries. And this one, for me, which is really nice, it came with an extra battery pack. We wonder then at the end of the day, do we really need to purchase a brushless technology? It really depends, like everything else, on what you're doing. If you're doing woodworking for a living and you need more power and you need more life in batteries, it might be something to look at. Certainly if you're an electrician or a plumber, somebody working on site, and maybe you don't have access to power all of the time, then brushless technology might be something you really want to look at, because it'll give you a little bit more power, a little bit more battery life, all of those things that you're looking for in cordless kind of technology. For people that are doing occasional woodworking at home, it's one of those nice to have things, but is it essential? Probably not. But I always like to compare things to what we have for vehicles. If you drive a vehicle, did you purchase the least expensive vehicle? Could you have purchased one with less power, or maybe one that didn't look quite as nice? You know, we all purchase different things for different reasons. Sometimes it's power, sometimes it's looks, sometimes it's efficiency, all sorts of reasons why we buy different things. And this is just another option that people could look at, and you're going to be spending a little bit more money. Do you really need it? It depends on what you're doing. So you have to make those choices yourself. And that concludes my brief video on brushless drill technology. And if you want more information than what I can give here in a 6 or 7 minute video, check out the article on Woodwork Web. I've got more detail and more links there if you're looking for more detail. And don't forget, I've got lots more videos coming your way, so stay tuned. I'm Colin Cadet for Woodwork Web.